much. Hi there, everybody. Brian Kraff here, and really thrilled to wish everybody a Happy New Year, to kick off the new year with a great webinar, educational webinar on really one of the most amazing topics that's happened in the last 10 years, which is website marketing, internet marketing, and how we can use it to help our businesses and to grow. And what a great time to have a webinar in January. Hopefully a lot of you folks like ourselves have made New Year's resolutions to improve your businesses. Hopefully that's one of the many reasons why you're on the line. And I guarantee you that you're going to walk away from this webinar with no fewer than 5 great things to act on when it comes to new items to take care of with regard to your ranking on Google in 2016, and really overall how to market yourself better on the web in 2016. You know, the greatest thing about web marketing here is that the world of website marketing, social media, Facebook and Google, all the banner ads and display ads and search, SEO, all of this change, it always gives you an opportunity to level the playing field with your competitors, and in many cases to exceed what they're doing, sometimes for less money than they're even spending. And so by staying on top of these types of topics, you're able to make sure that your business stays on top. That's why we love providing this education. That's why we're so grateful that PHCC and the Educational Foundation and Alicia and Cindy and Wayne and the board make educational opportunities like this available. We love doing these webinars for you. We've been doing both webinars and in-person seminars for you for just about the last 10 years or so. I've had the personal privilege of meeting many of you at different conferences and whatnot, but it's just great to have you on the line, whether you're someone who joins in every time that we give a webinar, or if you're a newcomer, it's great to have you here. I've got a roundtable, actually, of experts. I have Allie Getz on our team, who's our email marketing expert. I have Matt Horn, who many of you have heard before, speak on SEO. He's really our SEO guru. I've got Alon here, who is our Director of Marketing, and Doug, who many of you know as our Director of Partnerships, but more importantly, our industry liaison and the senior-most executive consultant on the team. So instead of just having me speak, we have found that, based on feedback from you, that you guys really like it when you've got 3 or 4 voices to hear. It's different voices, different viewpoints. All of us take care of PHCC members and service contractors across the country, and we're just thrilled to be here helping you. And whether or not you choose to use market hardware or not for these things is really not the important thing. The important thing is to recognize the trends that are going on in the web marketing world. There are 10,000 web vendors out there, all of whom want your business, many of whom call you every single day. I know it annoys you. You know it annoys you. So the best thing you can do, other than hang up on everybody, is to arm yourself with the knowledge of what the changes are and why you should make some changes to your web marketing, and maybe how to think about who to have do your web marketing for you, whether that's you yourself, whether it's your son or daughter, whether it's someone who works on the team as a marketing person, or if you're hiring an outside consultant. So what we love to do at Market Hardware for PHCC members is to give you some guidance, give you some education. Great to kick off the year with this webinar where we've got some very special secrets on new things that are happening in 2016, so you can stay ahead of the curve. I've introduced everybody. I've thanked PHCC. I really want to note that we love getting questions from you, and one of the great things about this is that we're here. One of the things that Allie's going to do during much of the presentation is answer some of your questions and guide those and direct those to us. So please, we're doing this webinar for you, not for us. Please ask us questions so that we can provide the education and the context for the different topics we're going to talk about, which really will run the gamut from SEO to email marketing to new things that are happening with display and banner advertising, and of course search. So with that in mind, ask the questions. Also to note, we absolutely will send everybody a copy of this presentation. We'll have information about that at the end of the presentation, so do know that we'll make that available to you, along with, of course, any PHCC member can always contact Market Hardware to get a no-hassle, free consultation session just so we can make sure you're on the right track. It's one of the things we love doing for PHCC members. With that, I think I'd like to turn it over to Alon. Alon, maybe you could kick us off and get into some of the meat of the presentation as it is.
Thanks, Brian, and another thank you to PHCC for having us produce this webinar. I was fortunate enough to be down in Hollywood, Florida last year, and to also be down in New Orleans the year before, presenting about search engine optimization, search engine marketing in general, and really just all things web marketing. What we've seen with the plumbing, heating, and cooling industry is we've actually seen a lot of success with these web marketing campaigns, which is why I think I speak for all of us when I say I'm really excited to be here producing this webinar. So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today, but what it really boils down to is everybody wants to know, how can we get our phones to ring more often? We're all sitting here wondering this all day. I imagine most of you are also wondering the same thing, and that's why you're on this webinar, is to figure out, how can I get my phone to ring more often? And we're going to talk about three main topics today. The first of those is going to be SEO. This is the single most effective strategy for getting new client calls. It's what we saw work really effectively in 2015, and it's what we expect to continue in 2016. So we did entire presentations on this a couple times last year. It's still going to be about a third of the presentation today. So if you're familiar with SEO, bear with us, because we're going to get to some really great new stuff, which is email newsletter marketing. That's why Allie's on the call today as well. She's the one answering all the questions behind the scenes. She helped produce the content for that. She's going to give a couple of suggestions about how to put an email newsletter together and send it to your clients. That's going to get you more repeat client calls. And then finally, we're going to talk about banner retargeting. I think that's the single most quickly growing strategy that we saw really take off in the last 6 months, the second half of 2015, and it's off to a pretty quick start in 2016. More and more companies are investing in banner retargeting. That's actually going to serve two purposes. It's going to get you more new client calls, and it's going to get more of your customers coming back and repeating as customers. So we're going to talk about all three of those today. Let's jump into that SEO part of the presentation. And to really talk about SEO, we're going to give a little background about what search engines like Google are doing. So I love starting with this slide because it explains what search engines are doing. And in order to figure out how to show up higher in search engines, we have to know what they're doing. So again, I know Brian mentioned, if you have questions, whether it's a basic question, whether it's an advanced question, don't hesitate to send it over. We want to make sure everybody really gets a firm understanding about all these topics today. So let's start with this search engine slide right here. Search engines like Google, what they're doing is, it's called crawling the web, and they're doing that, and what that means is they're looking at the billions of websites that exist out there, and they're building a search index, which means they're ranking websites by relevancy. So this example that we have here, I actually went on Google and I typed in ice cream in Nashville, and these are the top 3 results that Google deemed most relevant for that result. They think that these 3 companies here are the perfect fit for somebody that's searching for ice cream in Nashville. So obviously, for everybody on the call, your goal should be to make your website the most relevant result for some of the popular searches going on around you, which might be plumbing repair in your town. Maybe it's heating repair. We're going to talk about those. Matt's going to give us some examples of the most commonly searched for terms, and we're going to help you match those up with your most profitable services so that when you start to do an SEO campaign, you're targeting the right services. But again, the point is, we need to make it clear to Google that our website is the most relevant result for some of those popular searches. And I want to emphasize something, and I've got some good news for everybody, which is that because you're PHCC members, you tend to be among the best in the business, right? You folks are the ones that are the tops in your industry. You're actually the ones that Google wants to show at the top of page 1, because Google knows that PHCC members are the most credible, reputable plumbing, heating, and cooling businesses out there. So we've already got half the battle taken care of. We know that we're reputable. We know that we're credible. We're going to figure out how to actually tell Google that and how to get that message conveyed to Google so that we show up a little bit higher in search results. So let's take a closer look at the search result landscape. Doug, give everybody a little bit more background. Again, I know that some of this stuff might seem like repeat information, but it's important to make sure that we're all on the same page, literally and figuratively, hopefully page 1, right? So Doug, give us a little bit of background. What are the 3 sections that we're looking for here on the search result landscape, and what does it take to show up in each of those?
Thanks, Alon. And yeah, folks, I know everybody who's looking at this slide is saying, well, we've seen this all before, but for those who are not as quite as familiar, it's important we take some time to explain everything. So what you see, folks, is your typical Google results landscape. And the bulk of this presentation today is going to focus on Google because at the end of the day, that is far and away the most important search engine out there. The most valuable real estate that you can have on the internet is page 1 of Google for your local services. So the first thing that we see here is section B, the paid search results. I'm sure many, if not all of you, have at some point in the history of your company probably run a pay-per-click or Google AdWords campaign. Really, they're the same thing. AdWords is simply Google's own platform for running these campaigns through Google. But there are many other providers out there who can provide call tracking and call recording for you. This is the fastest way to get guaranteed page 1 placement on page 1. At the end of the day, folks, the costs associated with this kind of marketing depend very much on your market and the number of people who live around you. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Somebody who lives in a major market should be spending more than somebody who lives in a rural part of the country. So it's important that your budget fits your market. Section A are the local or maps results. You may have noticed over the past couple months in particular, these results have shrunk for your average Google search, whether you're looking for a plumber or even a pizza delivery service. As many as 2 or 3 years ago, you might get 5 to 10 results in the local or map section. Basically, Google has reduced the impact of this section by reducing the number of results. And if you think about it like real estate, what that does is it increases the value of section C. But before we jump there, it's important to note, if you're trying to rank in the local or map section in towns or cities that are nearby you, for the most part, folks, you're far more likely to rank in map section based on where you're physically located. It can be very difficult to show up in towns or cities that you're not physically located in. So what's a business to do? Well, that's what brings us to section C, the organic or natural results. These are results that you can't buy, you can't pay for them. The best way to think about it is you have to earn them, and you earn these results by becoming the most relevant business for a particular search phrase, so plumbing repair, Baltimore, Maryland, in your particular town or city. And again, we want to emphasize these results have the most long-term value to your business. While there's no guarantees out there, and anybody who tells you there are guarantees with SEO is somebody that you should immediately have a red flag with, we consider these the place you should be targeting over the next 1 to 2 years for your business.
And we get asked the question a lot, right, Doug, which is, where should I focus on? What's most important? And, if you were to ask us, we would say we want you to show up in all 3 of these sections. There's pros and cons to each. There's some people that use Google and they only look for companies in one of these 3 sections. And when you show up in all 3, like you said, you've got a lot of real estate, you're casting a wide net, you're getting a lot of clicks, but the truth of the matter is it's sort of unreasonable to be able to start by focusing on all 3 unless you have all the time and energy available in order to do what it takes to show up in all 3 sections. So what we've seen, the reason that we're going to be talking about SEO for a third of the presentation today is that, like you said, that's the most effective long-term return on your investment when it comes to marketing dollars. So before we really dive into SEO, we're going to talk a little bit more about Section A here, which is the map and local results like Doug started talking about. Because one of the things that we've seen over the course of the last year is that a lot of businesses have sort of let this section fall to the wayside when it comes to their web marketing game plan. And whereas 5 or so years ago, a lot of companies were really focusing on this, like you said, Doug, they were using that to show up in a bunch of different local towns. It's become a little bit difficult to show up in towns where you're not physically located. So a lot of companies just started ignoring their Google Plus business page, but they might be making a mistake by doing that because especially for the companies that are located physically in a major city, you could actually be benefiting greatly from that specific section. So Matt, tell us a little bit about the Google Plus business page. How has it changed over the last few years, and why do we have it highlighted as insider secret number 1?
The biggest thing today is there is less real estate on page 1 in the local map section, as Doug and Alon have both hinted on. The biggest thing that we're seeing is people are saying, well, I'm not even going to spend time there because it's impossible to show up in one of 3 spots if this bigger company already has it. It may be tough to show up, but we don't want to throw this away, and it's very simple to make sure that your places page is verified It's also pretty simple to try to go out and get some reviews there and make you look like a legitimate local business. And who knows, maybe one day you'll start popping up in the local map section. So yes, it's harder. Yes, there's less real estate, but we don't want to completely ignore this section. Set up a Google account. Go out there, claim your business. The very easy way is go on to Google, do a search for your business. If it's out there, you have the option to claim it if you haven't claimed it already. In order to do that, Google sends you a postcard. You basically plug in a PIN number. You get it verified. You try to go out there and gather some Google reviews to make your page look a little more legitimate. That can also help with some of your rankings. The only issue here is that you need a Google account in order to leave a review. So what we say is try to target some customers that you have in your database. If you can sort out their email addresses by Gmail accounts and maybe target those people first to try to get them to leave a review for you. That's really the biggest insider secret, is just make sure you have it verified and don't throw this section away.
So there's really sort of a good, better, best when it comes to a Google Plus business page, right, Matt? There's, the good would be going out and claiming your business page. The better would be actually validating it. So when you get that postcard sent to your physical address, you go back onto Google, you type in a code, and then Google gives you a little check mark, right? That's the better. And then best would be actually going out and soliciting reviews from your customers. That is a process that can take a little bit of time, but once you get a lot of reviews, then you start to show up a little bit higher and you can start to get a lot of phone calls. This example I want to point out here, the Country Music Hall of Fame, you can see right here, they have 101 Google reviews. Obviously, the Country Music Hall of Fame is a big corporation, so they're going to have more reviews than your average local business, but all you need is 5 reviews in order to have those stars start to show up when somebody's doing local map searches. So, try to get some of your top customers to get those reviews. If you get those 5 reviews, your stars will start to show up. Again, going back to what I was saying before about PHCC businesses, you're the tops in the industry. I'm very confident that most of you are going to be 4 or 5 stars when you're getting reviews. So I would encourage everybody to go and at least do some version of those. Claim your listing, validate it, verify it, and then start getting some of those reviews. One of the other things that I want to point out before we move forward to SEO is there's a lot of value packed into this little snippet, right? This is a screenshot straight from Google showing this Google Plus business page, and there's a lot of really great information that you can pack on your Google Plus business page. So here you see the Country Music Hall of Fame. Right there you have a quick description about them. You have an address, their operation hours, a phone number, and links to their social media profiles, and of course some of their top reviews, right? So that's the kind of stuff that a lot of folks are looking for when they're doing searches online. They want to know how to reach you. We're going to talk about that with a website in a minute. They want to know where your social media pages are. They want to know your hours. And having all of that information built in your Google Plus business page might get you another couple dozen phone calls or more than that in 2016. It's a simple step. It's free to do. It doesn't take a lot of time, so please take that into account. Think about whether you claimed or verified your Google Plus business page, and if you're unsure, don't hesitate to let us know and we can look into it with you. So let's jump to the SEO portion of the presentation, right, Matt? So there's a lot that you can do when it comes to SEO. There's a whole variety. There's hundreds of companies out there, but for the most part, they're doing some version of the basics, the advanced, and the top of the line when it comes to optimization. So tell us about the differences between those. How much optimization should the folks on the line be doing?
So this slide here, I want to make it clear before I dive into it. This is typically what we believe every SEO company should be doing out there, any SEO company, not just Market Hardware. Starting out at the basic level is going to be the on-site optimization. This is going to be when you take your keywords and you are actively placing them within the website in different places to let Google know what it is you're relevant for. And we're going to give you guys some examples of how to do this and where to do this. But the biggest thing at the basic level, you're optimizing for some keywords and you're doing your basic on-site optimization. Big takeaway here, no matter what level you're doing, make sure the company that you're working with has access to your website. If they don't have access to the code to be able to change keywords on your website on a monthly basis, then they aren't doing the most basic level of SEO. Moving up from there, you have your advanced, your middle of the road. This is everything we talked about in the basics. This is where the off-site optimization factors come into play. This is when you start trying to build high-quality inbound links, and you're trying to get relevant links coming into your site from other sources on the web. Once again, we're going to show you guys examples of how to do this and where to get these from. Then you have your top of the line, the most aggressive form. This is everything from basic and advanced. all the on-site and off-site. Now you're getting your social media management into play. All the work you're doing on social media is revolving around your keywords, and you're trying to gain more exposure. As Alon said before, what level? What do I do? How do I do this? If you're in a very rural market, the basic may be perfect for you. You may not need to do a lot of work because you aren't in a competitive market and there really isn't anybody else there trying to get onto page one. If you're in a very competitive market and you're really trying to dominate it, you may have to go with advanced or top of the line. Based on competition, you may have to do a lot more of the on-site, the off-site, and the social media in order to try to compete.
So really, there's no one-size-fits-all approach, right? Unfortunately, it's not as simple as saying this is what everybody needs to be doing, and you're going to show up for this many clicks and this many phone calls per any given month, right? That's why it's important to figure out, what's the right strategy. That's our goal for the presentation today, is to help everybody figure out what the right strategy to employ would be in order to show up in our competitive market. So let's dive into that campaign, Matt. This is normally the process that you take for every SEO campaign that you do for Market Hardware. It all starts with a site analysis. Tell us why this step is so important, why you can't afford to get this piece of the puzzle wrong.
The first thing is we need to take a look at how the website was built and how the website was structured. Unfortunately, there are some very template-y or cookie-cutter sites that are out there that just have lines and lines of messy code behind the scene with no real content to it. No matter how much SEO work we do on this, if Google can't see the relevant content behind it, then unfortunately you're going to be much slower out of the gate. And no matter how much SEO we do, unfortunately you may not be able to get onto page one. Got to take a look at the site and how it was built. The other thing, as I just mentioned, the content. Make sure that it's unique and make sure that it's relevant. We'll touch a little bit more on what both of these means in the next few slides. But the biggest thing to take away here, as we have presented with our screenshot on the right, is do you have strong call to actions, and is it going to contribute into sales? Now, what we mean by this is we can do all the SEO on a website, but once somebody gets there, they need to be able to figure out what it is you do, how to get in touch with you, and where you do it within the first 15 seconds, or else they're probably going to move on to the next site. Everybody these days has an attention span of a 2-year-old when it comes to trying to find something online and going forth with it. The website over here is a clear demonstration. You have the phone number at the top right. You have call to action right there. You know what it is they do. You know where they service. Makes it very clear that they're a PHCC member. And these are the things that you need to have displayed right on page one. Make it very easy for the user once they get there to pick up the phone and give you a call. So before we start the SEO, we want to take all of this into account.
And I want to add on, you mentioned the PHCC logo, and there's also an NFIB logo here on the bottom right. That's something that all of the people on the call, all of your businesses, you all pay for your PHCC membership, and it's really valuable that you have that logo somewhere on your home page. Even if somebody visits your website and maybe they're not familiar with the PHCC Association, they're going to see that badge on your homepage, and they're going to know that you're a credible business, and they're going to feel that much more confident in giving you a call and using your services. So definitely take a look at your homepage of your website. If you don't have those badges somewhere in a very noticeable location, get them added. Get in touch with your website designer, because that might, even over the course of a year, maybe it's a couple more phone calls, maybe it's 10 or 20 more phone calls that you get just as a result of having that badge on there. And don't miss those other points that Matt just made, right? Show who you are, where you service, whether you're plumbing, heating, cooling, whatever combination of those. Make sure that's all very obvious right from the homepage. So Matt, let's jump back into the next step of the SEO process. So let's say we feel good about our website. We know that it's going to convert visitors into callers. Let's start getting it in front of people. So tell us a little bit about key phrases, and how do you select the right strategic key phrases, and why is it so important to get that step right?
Once you gather your website, the next step here is, well, what do I want to show up for, and what keywords are going to make people want to pick up the phone and give me a call once they do the searches? We need to figure out what your top services are and combine them with what your top service areas are. So for this section, and you're going to hear us say it a lot, we refer to these as key phrases rather than just keywords. So there are some very important key phrases within your industry: plumbing, plumbers, plumbing repair, plumbing service. If you're on the heating and cooling side, heating repair, air conditioning, these are the most popular search terms. We know that. We've run campaigns. We've seen these terms convert into calls, but also Google comes out and gives us some information. They will actually come out, if you plug in certain keywords, they can tell you what the percentage of monthly searches are on average based on that key term. So obviously we want to get in front of the largest audience possible, so we want to go after these most popular searched key phrases. Once we determine what our top key phrases are, we want to go ahead and then place them throughout the website. Now we need to strategically place these throughout the site so that Google and the other search engines understand what it is that you're relevant for and what it is that you're trying to show up for. So we have a couple of places listed here. I'm going to give you examples of what we mean by all of these in the next couple slides. But it's very important to understand that at the end of the day, you need to help Google help you make them understand what it is that you want to show up for. So if you don't have your key phrases very visible to Google when they're crawling your website, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, unfortunately, and you're not going to be able to compete with some of the top competitors in your area.
So Matt, before you talk about this chart, I want to point out one more thing with picking key phrases, which is something that we didn't talk about that much this time last year, but is becoming really a lot more important to an SEO campaign, which is figuring out profitability of different services. So if you know that your plumbing services earn you a lot more or earn you bigger profits than some of your heating or cooling services, and you're starting an SEO campaign out, take that into account, because those are the keywords that you're going to want to show up for first, and that'll help pay for some of the marketing time and energy that you spend focusing on some of the other keywords. So if you do hire an SEO provider, one of the things that you should be doing with them is communicating to them, hey, I really want to show up for more of these services. I just hired a couple more techs that just do plumbing rather than heating. So those are the key phrases. Those are the services that you want to start off by targeting. So take that into account when you're trying to figure out what key phrases you're optimizing for. Matt, will you explain to us this chart? What's a short-tailed, medium-tailed, and long-tailed key phrase? Because again, it goes back to what we're talking about with Insider Secret number 2, which is finding the right strategic key phrases to target.
This is a pretty cool chart that we put in here, and it really goes to show the more that you target as far as different key phrases are concerned, the larger audience you're going to get put in front of. You have your short-tailed key phrases, which are the ones that I listed earlier, your plumbing, heating, cooling. Those are the ones that everybody searches for, and these are the ones that get a lot of the search volume. But if you look at the chart, by only going after those, you're going to show up for about 50% of the searches out there. If you take your short-tailed and you match them up with your medium-tailed key phrases, and this, leaking bathroom faucet could be an example of a medium-tailed. It's just a longer version of how people are doing searches. But you take your short and your medium, and you go after both of these. As you see this chart, the chart starts to go up a little bit, and you're getting in front of even more people doing searches. You take short, medium, match them up with your long-tailed, such as my toilet is leaking and water is everywhere. Then you're really getting in front of an even larger audience. And as Alon said before, you're sort of casting a wider net on people out there that are doing searches. And by this, hopefully that means you're getting in front of more people, which in turn means more phone calls. And that's really what we're after here.
All right, so we're going to talk about header tags and title tags, because I'm sure that there's some folks scratching their head trying to figure that out. Look, I don't know the difference between a furnace and a water heater and a garbage disposal, but if you showed me pictures of those, then I'd start to understand the differences. So let's show an image, let's show some graphics here. Matt, explain to us what's highlighted in blue and what's highlighted in yellow. Why do we need to know what those are?
So highlighted in blue up at the very top is the title tag of this specific page that we're on the website. This is typically the very first thing that Google looks at when they're crawling the page, so we need to make it very clear to Google what it is you do and where you service. Your top key phrases should be spread throughout the different title tags of the different pages on your website. So we have plumbers and we have repiping in here. We also have a couple of the top cities that this specific client wants to target. So we have our keyword, our cities, we'll make our key phrases, and then this is what Google's going to crawl. So if you don't have your most popular search term, you have a specific page on your site right there to let Google know what the page is about, then all you have is your company name, you're going to be missing out. So you really, once again, are almost manipulating your website in a way to tell Google that you're relevant for different search terms. Below here we have highlighted in yellow or H1, or what you often hear these called your header tags, which is also at the bottom left on the page, residential plumbing serving Indianapolis and surrounding towns. Sometimes when you get to the site you may think, oh, that's just bigger text, they want people to see it. Google actually weighs that more relevant than the content below it because we are putting it within these H1 tags. Google's crawling this, once again, specific keyword, specific town, makes up your key phrase. Help Google help you determine what it is you want to show up for.
So here's the thing, right? Google has a formula that takes into account hundreds of factors in order to figure out who's the most relevant result for every single search. And they don't publish that formula. They don't tell us everything that's on it, or else it'd be easy to do SEO. But They have given us bits and pieces of the formula, and these are two of the factors that they have come out and said, if you're trying to tell us your services and where you provide them, your title tags and header tags are a really great place to start. That's one of the first places that they look at when trying to figure out what you do and where you do it. So this is really the basic fundamental aspect of any SEO campaign or any SEO strategy. You've got to look at these on your website and make sure your top services and your top cities are in those places. Matt, one of the questions that we get really often when we show this slide, and we've gotten a lot of really great questions so far today, I want to encourage everybody to keep sending those over. But one of the questions that we get really often is, well, why can't I just dump in a list of 20 or 30 cities? What do you normally say to anybody that might ask that?
So that is what's called keyword stuffing, and the one thing I say to you is that Google hates that. You can get penalized for that, and then if you get penalized by Google and go back to page, even 5 or 10, nobody's going to find you there. The biggest thing is that Google does have guidelines, and they come out and they'll tell you, you can put a certain amount of characters within a title tag or a header tag. So you don't want to go in, at the bottom of your website and dump in 50 to 100 different zip codes and think, oh, well, Google's going to crawl every single zip code and I'm ahead of the game. Google will crack down on that. They will end up penalizing you for that, and that is, your strategic keyword stuffing is what they call it. Google really is not a big fan of it. So if you think you're doing too much, you probably are. Make sure at the end of the day that you're doing it all within Google's guidelines, because that's what's going to help you in the long run.
All right, now that we've seen some examples of what it looks like, let's take a look at what SEO does not look like. And these are two real-life, actual examples of websites we found on the internet that were trying to implement these strategies. So, Matt, tell us a little bit, what were these companies going for, and why were they not successful in showing up using these strategies?
The top black box thing here is our keyword stuffing, which we were just talking about right there. But this company went and took it a step further. What they were trying to do is they thought, well, if Google is out there crawling the web and I have a city-specific page for plumbing service and plumbing repair, Google's got to find me in each of those cities and I'm going to be ahead of the game. Unfortunately, what they did was they have duplicate content on every single one of these cities. You can actually click on all the cities listed here, and it takes you to a different page of the website. But unfortunately, the only thing the company did was swap out the city name. This is duplicate content, and Google, once again, will come out at times and tell you things they do and do not like. This is one of the ones, the same thing with keyword stuffing and the same thing about bad links that I'm going to talk about. They have come out and said they hate duplicate content. So if you think you're trying to trick Google up by having all these city-specific pages, but it's the exact same content, they will penalize you for that and crack down. The other thing is that you can tell this is trying to be hidden a little bit. It's kind of tough to see. It's a little bit small. Once again, the company was trying to make it so that Google picked up this, not typically when somebody got to the website. Google's always looking for user friendliness when it comes to the websites. Google wants people coming back and using them, their search engine time after time. And if they're going to show websites that aren't very user friendly, people may leave and go elsewhere. So if you think you're trying to trick Google, once again, you probably are. I would be very careful of doing that. Our little paragraph here below, this company was trying to make it pretty darn clear that they sell custom bathroom fixtures. They threw it in here about 5 times within a 2-sentence paragraph. Once again, keyword stuffing, make sure that it makes sense. Make sure that Google understands it. Put your keyword in there once or twice. You don't have to overdo it. It's not going to help you in the long run. It's going to hurt you.
So look, there's some challenges that companies run into when they have a really big service area like this, or when they're trying to show up for a bunch of different services. And the reason that these companies had to do this is because they had a really big service area. They did have a lot of different services. And again, this is the wrong way to go about doing SEO. When you start to get into those big service areas, the right way to show up for some of those cities and towns is using what we talked about earlier with the advanced and top-of-the-line strategies, which brings us to link building, right? That's the right way to show up when you have a service area with 20, 25 towns. So tell us a little bit about link building. What exactly is a backlink, and why is that something that this is almost more important than what we were talking about on-site? When it comes to off-site optimization, you've got to make sure that you're doing it the right way, not the wrong way, right, Matt?
So this is an awesome slide. I'm going to dive into this, but I got to take one step back real quick and just make sure that I make it clear. If you're really struggling to show up in a couple different towns, there's absolutely nothing wrong with creating 2 or 3 city-specific pages, as long as the content is unique and very different from one another on all of those pages. All right, enough said there. Moving on to the off-site optimization. This really is taking it to the next level, your advanced and top of the line. This is trying to make you stand out more in a competitive area. The biggest thing here is you're trying to gain relevant inbound links to your website. I have my website, Alon has his website. I send a link from my site to Alon's website. He's receiving an inbound link from a relevant source that is out there on the web. Google is looking at every site and giving it a score. They have your domain authority. One way to help improve your domain authority, improve your score, is by getting relevant inbound links. I've used the word relevant 100 times already, and you'll probably hear it another 100 times in this presentation, but we can't stress this enough, because one of the biggest issues we see, one of the biggest things that people will run into that can get them in trouble here, is they think that they just need a bunch of links, and they'll try to get them coming from random databases out there. And what I mean by that is sites out there that just have links on them and nothing else. There's no content, nothing is unique about it, and it's simply just links. These are called link farms, and by thinking if you're getting 500 links this month that you're going to be ahead of the game, once again, Google can crack down on it. Credible links out there such as blogs, news articles, some of the different directories such as Yelp, Angie's List, Better Business Bureaus, making sure that you're getting links from all of these different places out there are going to help you, and this is going to increase your exposure, because Google's going to find you, once again, more relevant than somebody who isn't doing this.
So anybody who's on the call wondering right now, well, how am I supposed to know what is pointed to my website, right? Anybody can put a link pointed to my website. If you're unsure what links there are out there pointed to your website, we're going to talk a little bit more about our SEO ranking report toward the end of the presentation. It's one of the benefits for everybody who's on the call with us. But we are going to offer up a report where we put together a lot of information, and included on that is going to show some of the top inbound links to your website. So if that's something that you're curious about, if you've had a website for 10 plus years and you have no idea what could be pointed to it, take advantage of that offer. All PHCC members can get that report. It's going to show you what's pointed to your website. It's really important to be able to figure that out and know. So, Doug, let's get you on the line. I know you've been sitting there. You're ready to jump back into the mix here. So we're going to talk a little bit about where some other SEO companies go wrong. So we talked here about the right and the wrong way to do SEO, and that's what's called a black hat SEO tactic, the wrong way. It's the short-term results with long-term negative consequences. We hate to see that, but it does happen, and it's an unfortunate reality about some other SEO companies that are out there. The truth is there's a lot of great SEO companies out there. The bad news is there's a lot of bad ones. So tell us about some of the strategies that everybody on the phone call should be very careful to avoid, and why.
Thanks, Alon. And yeah, I think the guys did a great job touching on some of those right there. The link farms are a very dangerous one, particularly because once your domain becomes associated with a negative link farm, it can hurt you indefinitely. So definitely making sure. But a key thing here, folks, is combining on-site and off-site efforts. There are a lot of SEO companies out there who will do one or the other, but this goes back to one of our most important points that we're going to keep hammering home. Make sure you understand what your SEO provider is doing for you. We're not expecting everybody on this call to become an SEO expert overnight. You guys are experts at what you do, and you should stay an expert in that. But anytime you're spending marketing dollars on something, if you're not sure what that company is doing for you, whether they're being successful or not, it's important to know for the long-term success of your company 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Additionally, an offsite strategy that I hear a lot of when I talk to PHCC members and other folks in your industry are, my company says they're distributing my business information across the web, and that's how they're doing my SEO. This is a listing submissions program. This is not technically SEO. It's called a directory program, because all it is, folks, is sending your information, your business information, to other online directories out there. It's pretty much an automated service, but it is not directly an ongoing on-site or off-site tactic. Typically, these types of programs will cost anywhere between $50 and $150 a month, but like any other kind of marketing out there, folks, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Real SEO can typically not be done for less than about $200 a month, because on a month-to-month basis, the amount of time that has to be spent doing it, a real company wouldn't be able to make money doing it for less. So just make sure you understand what the directory submissions are and whether it's part of the only strategy or a bigger strategy. And going back to what we've talked about before, the competitive analysis is the key. Like Matt said, if you're focused on getting big ticket items, make sure you share that with your SEO company at the beginning of the program so that they can run a keyword analysis, understand where the competition is highest in your market, but also make sure that they're devoting the most resources to the most important services for you in the market that you serve.
All right, so I'm going to do a quick minute-long recap, and then we're going to get started on some email newsletter marketing and banner retargeting. So to start, claim, verify, and populate your Google Plus business page. This is an easy step. Like I mentioned earlier, it's free to do it. It takes a little bit of time, but it's worth it, especially if your company, your business is located physically in a major city or town. Pick the right key phrases. We talked about all the ways to do that. Take into account what's being looked up the most, what's more affordable, what are your competitors maybe missing out on. That's going to help you figure out your sort of formula going forward when it comes to doing some search optimization. Then third, link building is the best way to distinguish yourself from a competitor. Don't go out and build out 20, 25 different city-specific pages. Spend your time going and finding high-quality inbound links to your website from partners, trade associations, blogs, whatever it might be. If you need suggestions for those, schedule a consultation with us. We can give you some advice about doing link building the right way. So with that out of the way, those first three secrets are clarified. Now we feel good about getting more new customer phone calls. We're going to start to grow our business. Let's talk a little bit about how to keep those customers coming back for more, because email newsletter marketing is the single best strategy as far as we're concerned. With web marketing. This is the best way to keep customers coming back time and time again. Doug, you're the one having a consultation with plumbing and heating businesses. They're calling you and they're asking questions about this more and more. So what are you telling them? What is email newsletter marketing and why does it work so well?
Well, the biggest reason that we're recommending this to you guys today is because email newsletter marketing can be done quickly and inexpensively, but most of all, it allows you to use a retention-based marketing effort to get the most out of your clients that you possibly can. I'm sure many of you either actively are or have previously sent newsletters to your clients, but what we're going to do is walk you through the best way to make this happen today, and all of this starts by collecting client information. You got to make sure you've got a good list of emails. If you're on this call and you haven't collected your clients' emails, start doing it today, because it's a good thing for you to build up. As you start to get into the hundreds and hundreds, you're going to realize that that list is a marketing vessel for you. Getting the right marketing platform, email marketing platform specifically, is really important. Many of us have surely heard of Constant Contact. There are other platforms out there. Make sure that if you're going to do it on your own, you find one that's a good fit for you, or if you hire somebody outside, that you understand the platform itself if you ever need to step in and take over it again. Getting the content is the key, folks. Content is the key to your site, the key to your SEO, and the key to your email newsletter. If you don't have fresh, relevant, seasonal, and at times hopefully funny content, your clients are either going to unsubscribe, mark you as spam, or just delete your emails. This is something that Lon is really the expert on, so I'm going to let him talk a little bit more about the educational, promotional balance of the content itself.
Thanks, Doug. One of the things that we talk about with finding that right balance, we've started referring to it as a 90-10 rule. So when it comes to an email newsletter and really social media in general, you want 90% of your content to be educational, stuff that your customers are really going to value receiving. They're going to benefit from it. Fortunately, Allie, who's been answering questions on behind the scenes, she's given us a bunch of content ideas, which we're going to talk about in a couple slides. But again, you want 90% of your content to be educational. Of course, you want 10% to be promotional. So at the end of any email newsletter that you send out, squeeze in an offer at the end, whether it's seasonal or quarterly. As far as how often you want to send out your newsletter, we've worked with businesses that send those out typically once a month, sometimes more, sometimes less. There are businesses that send them out once a quarter, once every 6 months, or even once a year. But the point is, it's a really great way to stay in front of your customers. Doug, I'm going to kick it back to you because you put a really great chart together on the next slide, which actually talks about the 4 reasons about why email newsletter marketing is such a popular tool. So tell us a little bit about those, and I'll give some content suggestions on the next slide.
Great. So really, folks, with any other kind of marketing that you do, we know one of the first questions that you're going to ask is cost. How expensive is it? Most email newsletter programs, well, there's 2 types of this. There's the one that you're going to do on your own, and there's hiring outside help. The typical do-it-yourself email newsletter program should run for under $100 a month. The question you have to ask yourself is, do I have the time, and is my time valuable enough so that I'm doing this quickly enough that I'm not losing money? Because there are email newsletter programs out there that could run anywhere between $200 and $500 a month or so. So if you're spending 5 hours or more on your email newsletter a month, you may want to look at a program outsourcing it, because at the end of the day, you're actually going to save money and it's very cost effective. The trackability of email is really the key here, because when you send an email, you can actually see how people interact with it. Who's opening your emails? Which buttons are they clicking? Which offer did you send that got the best response and open rate? This is how you become a marketing expert. Again, you don't need to go get your MBA in order to do this. You just have to study and understand the success of the emails that are going out in order to better know how to adjust your emails moving forward. The speed with which you can send it is really one of our favorite things here. Let's say you have an incoming weather storm like we do here coming to the East Coast here shortly, and you need to get an email out to your clients to make sure that they know what they can do to protect themselves, or how they can contact you in case something happens during an emergency time. Getting an email together and sending it to the right clients can happen within a matter of hours, as opposed to a direct mail campaign that can take days or weeks, or any other kind of marketing really that can take weeks or months to prepare. So the speed with which you get it out is very unique when it comes to emails. And of course, when you're sending these, they're going to your existing clients. You want to make them have a personal experience. We all get a lot of email every single day, and much of it is spam. But when you start to connect with your clients on a personal level, addressing them by their first name, splitting up your client list based on products or services they've bought from you before, which leads them into the next product funnel. This is how you become a marketer in 2016 and beyond.
All right, so now I get to give a couple of newsletter content suggestions. So before that, let's talk about some topics and sections, and then we'll talk about some content suggestions. So like Doug mentioned, you want to personalize your email newsletter. So you want to give a personal greeting, you want to introduce yourself to your customers, then you want to give them some combination of do-it-yourself industry tips, some industry news, some policy changes. One of the themes that we talked about with social media in the past is don't hesitate to introduce your staff members and show some photos of your facilities. Maybe it's photos of your vans. That's the kind of stuff that's going to show that your business is made of real people, and it's going to make your customers that much more comfortable continuing to work with you. It's going to make sure that they don't have a reason to work with somebody else, because they're going to feel like they have a close, built-up relationship with you. And then, of course, the tidbit here, don't forget to include a monthly offer special in your newsletter. That's that last 10%. So once you've gotten the right combination of these topics and sections, throw in an offer at the end. Some of the do-it-yourself industry tips. Doug, you mentioned that we've got a storm coming here toward the East Coast on Friday. I actually read a blog post today about how to avoid frozen pipes when the weather gets really cold. Sending out an email newsletter that includes some content about that, that's the kind of content that, for one, it's really easy for most plumbing experts to write about, and two, that's the kind of stuff that your customers are going to enjoy reading. They're going to appreciate it. They're going to benefit from it because it's going to save them money, and in the long run, when their pipes burst or they have something that requires service or repair, chances are that they're going to give you a call rather than looking up potentially one of your competitors. So some other tips, some giving advice on how to clear a clogged pipe or a clogged drain, tips on how to lower your energy bill for the heating and cooling businesses on the line. Anything like that your customers are going to benefit from reading from, you don't have to worry that they're going to unsubscribe or they're going to mark your mail as spam. What we're trying to do is turn your email newsletter marketing campaign into something that benefits your customers, right? We're not looking to turn anybody on the phone line into a business that sends out a daily email with exclamation points and capital letters and special offers, the stuff that all of us are so used to getting and just deleting or marking as junk, and maybe we're getting angry that we're getting so much of this. We're not looking to do that. That's different from what we're talking about with email newsletter marketing. But it's important to get that right, because it is a challenge when it comes to do-it-yourself email marketing, because we want to make sure that you do it the right way. There's a couple other challenges that come up, and I'm sure that there's some people on the line that are thinking, well, I send out a lot of emails. I can put together an email newsletter marketing. Sounds easy enough. But there's a few points to consider, right, Doug? So one of the questions that you get is, can I do this on my own, or do I need to hire somebody? So what are some of the things that you tell those folks that call you asking if they can do an email newsletter on their own?
Thanks a lot. And folks, we've got just about 10 minutes left, so hang with us, because we've still got one very, very important thing to tell you about marketing this year. But this slide is pretty straightforward, folks. If you can't answer yes to all three of these questions, or if you're not really sure what HTML is, it's probably best that you find outside help. Now, that may mean actually somebody who works directly for you, but anyone other than yourself. If you don't have time to write unique content, you're not sure how to fit it into an HTML design, and most of all, you don't have time to come up with that creative content. At the end of the day, hiring outside help is going to be better, because if you're spending 5 to 10 hours on something like this every single month, if you consider your time worth more than $100 an hour, and I'm sure for just about everybody or everybody on this line that's the case, then you really need to find some help for that. So make sure that you know you can answer yes to all three of these, or at least give it a shot, and then try to find some outside help.
All right, I'm so excited that we get to talk about retargeting now. So retargeting is one of the strategies. Like I said early on, it serves two really awesome purposes. It helps you get more new customers, and it helps you keep more existing customers. Doug, I've got a feeling that everybody on the line has seen retargeting in action over the last month, right? So tell us, what is retargeting? How can we see this in action all the time on the internet? It's going on everywhere around us, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that this always makes me think of is Amazon.com. But if you've ever searched for or bought products online, whether it's products that you need for your business, or maybe clothes for yourself or a family member, or even running shoes, if you search for that stuff on Amazon or other websites, you may have noticed an advertisement for that specific product or something very similar to it following you around to different websites that you visit on the internet, maybe CNN.com, maybe Washington Post, maybe ESPN. All of these different sites are showing you ads for something that you looked at anywhere between 1 to 2 weeks ago. Well, that is retargeting, folks. And the reason it's so important for businesses to consider this year is because the technology has gotten to a point where not only is it inexpensive, but you can target people with what's called like-minded search. That means that even if people don't visit your website and leave, but if they're searching for your services in your local town or city, they can be displayed or outside. The targeting of it is based on where you want the ads to be shown, but they can see your banner advertisement shown even if they don't visit your website. One of the key things here is not just how effective this is, and again, this is about top-of-mind awareness. It's not necessarily the acquisition tool that direct lead programs are, but when you can have tens of thousands of ads shown, and these are called impressions every time your ad is shown, every single month for pennies, and we really mean it, folks. It costs less than 5 cents for every time the ad is shown. It can be a tremendous top-of-mind awareness tool. If you're still unsure of how it works, or some of that may have been confusing, definitely make sure you ask us a question or give us a call after, and we'll walk you through in more detail.
So Doug, we just got retargeting must be a popular topic, because we just got hit with a slew of questions. You talked about how expensive it is, right? You mentioned it can be just a couple cents to have that ad show up. We got another great question from Laura, who wants to know, how do you, or can you track retargeting, and how? So can you just talk a little bit about that process?
Thanks for the question, Laura. Yeah, the most retargeting campaigns give you the basic stats of how many times or how many impressions you get. Again, that's the number of times the ad is shown, and how many clicks you get. But one of the unique things that you can do, and you should do if you're running a campaign, this is how we tend to do it, is we put a phone number on the ad as well. And so that phone, people won't necessarily have to click on the ad to pick up the phone and give you a call. That's just getting the phone number out there, top of mind awareness. Now, if you really want to figure out exactly how much you're getting from it, you could acquire a targeting number, or excuse me, an additional phone number, a tracking number, and then put that only on your display or banner advertisements. That way you'll know every single call that you're going to get from it. But just to hammer home the point, this is about seeing yourself as much as you possibly can. We don't consider it quite the acquisition tool that pay-per-click would be, because that's a direct leads program. But for a couple $100 a month, we consider this a steal for ways to build your brand this year and next year.
And one of the other things that I want to mention with retargeting, look, if you feel like your web marketing strategy is at a 90% and A-, and you're looking to take it to the next level in 2016, this is what we want to be talking to you about, because this is what's going to take your A- web marketing strategy and it's going to turn it to an A+, because it's going to make your customer retention better and it's going to make your customer acquisition better. It's a great strategy. We feel confident that it can go so far as to double your web leads in 2016 from 2015. So if you have questions about this specifically, don't hesitate to let us know. One of the things that we want to help everybody on the phone line figure out is how to hire the right web marketing partner. So I know a lot of you are thinking you're going to do this on your own. Some of you might feel bad about thinking I need to hire somebody, but don't feel bad about that. The stat that we're showing here is that 80% of small and medium-sized businesses that have a revenue of $1 million a year, 80% of them are hiring somebody to do web marketing for them. So we put together this guide to picking the right web marketing company. Doug, walk us through the right questions to ask when trying to find the right web marketing company.
Well, again, and this applies to just about any service they're willing to provide, folks. But one of the big things here at Market Hardware, we're not big believers in contracts. And while we understand why some companies may have those in place, I think that it's important to understand up front whether they have it or not. The best companies out there who do what they do are at best explaining to you the expectations that you should have. Because if you're running an SEO program or something like that, it will take time to be successful. But companies shouldn't necessarily need a contract in order to keep you locked in for that amount of time if they set the right expectations about what they're going to do. Understanding the work they're doing on a monthly basis. I think we said it probably 100 times in this presentation, but we can't emphasize it enough. If you're not sure exactly what your provider is doing, they give you answers that are nonsensical or indirect. They could be using tactics that can hurt your business not just tomorrow, but 6 months or 6 years down the road. So make sure that you understand exactly what they're doing. We consider one of the most underrated aspects of finding the right web marketing firm industry expertise. As Alon and Matt and I have said, there are a lot of good providers out there. There's certainly more that may not be quite so good. But if you have somebody locally who you trust, who knows you and your business, make sure that they've done some work for a PHCC member or a plumber or an HVAC provider before, because it takes a specific type of expertise to structure the site in a way that's going to maximize your return on investment. So making sure they know what it takes to be successful is something you should discuss. And of course, staying up to date on web trends. Any web marketing company should be doing this anyway, but make sure that your company is doing that for you.